some Asian lettuce wrap using ground pork, some veggies. We'll make a little bit of a yum yum sauce. And then we are going to whip up a no-bake key lime pie. So let's start by getting our onions caramelized for our lettuce wraps. So I've got one small yellow onion here. I'm going to peel off this whole outer layer. And I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm going to cut them into thin kind of strips here. But then I'm also going to cut them one more time after that. So it's not super long strips, but they'll be about like an inch long or so. I think they'll just go well with how we're doing our lettuce wraps. So we've got this, and we're going to saute these up. So I'm going to use a little bit, I forgot to grab my olive oil. We're going to use a little bit of olive oil with a little bit of sesame oil. That way it will have a nice kind of like Asian flair to it, but I find sesame oil is a bit strong on itself. So we're going to put about a tablespoon of olive oil in here. And then we're going to use about, I want to say, a teaspoon or so of sesame oil. So you'll have that sesame flavor, but it won't be overpowering. We're going to turn this on, and we're going to let our onions start to saute. And then I'm going to give my hands a quick wash so I don't bring any onion flavors over to our key lime pie. I will say onions have a tendency to linger on you. So I always like to wash my hands before it. Okay, let's whip up the pie crust first so we can put that in the freezer to start chilling. So we are going to use 2 cups of graham cracker crumbs. So I don't have quite enough in here, but I do have a pack of graham crackers. So we'll whip that up with it as well. So this is about 1.5 cups or so. We're going to use that. And then I'm going to give these graham crackers a couple of beatings. And I like to do it before I open it up because they hold together and they crumble up a little bit easier. You don't have to do so much work. And you don't have to have these super fine. I find that a little chunk is okay. I'll go through with this and give it a couple more little pounds, but most of them are fairly fine. And this is going to be the graham cracker crust for our no-bake key lime pie. My daughter has been asking for key lime pies nonstop since we came back from Florida for her little soccer tournament there. And she tells me, you have to try a different recipe every time. So this one is going to be kind of a condensed milk and cream cheese base, but it's no bake, which is a little bit easier. It just needs some resting time in the fridge. And of course, I always make a much thicker graham cracker crust because she loves the graham cracker crust. And I'm kind of like that. I like more of that crust ratio. So I've got a stick of melted butter here. So 1/2 cup of melted butter. We're going to mix this up into this, and then we're going to press it into our pie mold. So let me grab a spatula here. I'm going to give this a nice little mix. And then into our pie tin we will go. And then we'll pop that in the freezer to chill so that the graham cracker crust can set. So I'm just mixing it up. It's going to be kind of a loose crumb now, but as we press it into the pie mold, it will start to take form. Okay. I'll slide it in here. I'm going to spread it out. And then I'm just going to start. This will give us kind of an even, firm base to hold it down. This is a good starting point. I'm going to grab some parchment paper and we will press it down some more. Let me give these a little bit of a toss. I'm going to break up. I'm going to turn this down to about a 5. And break up some of these onions so they can start to caramelize up nicely. Okay. get a bit of parchment paper here. And this will just allow you to push it down more without it sticking to you. And you want to do this so that your crust stays together. Otherwise, what will happen is if you cut it and you don't have it firmly pushed down, it will just crumble apart. Okay. So we've got, you can see it's packed in there tightly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this in my freezer and let it chill while we're making the rest of it. So I'll just slide it right over here and let it chill. Okay. Now, you know what? We'll take a pause and we're going to prep up some here and then we'll head back over there. That way we have, good timing on things. So I was trying to figure out what to do today. I was like, I had a couple of proteins and I was like, ground pork. How should I do my ground pork today? And you know what? I just thought ground pork is really great in Asian dishes. And I was like, oh, well, we just kind of did pork meatballs with an Asian flair. I want something a little different. And then I saw that in my garden, we had a lot of romaine lettuce. So I went out and picked some and I was like, lettuce wraps it is. Okay, I'm going to cut all of these in half. And then we're going to make kind of little like matchstick slices. So nice, really thin, petite slices that we're going to throw in here and saute up. We're doing our vegetables first before we add in the pork because we'll add in some seasonings. But this way our vegetables will get a good caramelization on them and bring out their flavor a bit more. So we're going to do some thin little kind of a little thicker than a matchstick, but thin little slices on here. That way it will go in nicely in our lettuce wraps. There we go. And these are just sweet peppers. Bell peppers would also work well. I find that the sweet peppers have a little bit more flavor to them, and I think that works really well in this dish because you want all of those kind of flavors to be delicate but meld well together for our little lettuce wraps. Let me get the last of these. And also the variety of color always just make things pop, I find. And if your knife is getting caught on your pepper skin, that just means it needs a little sharpening up. So just grab out your honing steel and sharpen it up. I also find that it's easier to cut my peppers from the inside versus the outside. Your knife will want to slip more on that outside versus that inside has a bit of a grip and it allows your knife to kind of stay in place and you'll get a better cut on it without a slip. Okay. We've got a good starting caramelization on our onions here. I'm going to throw in my peppers. I always let my onions start first because they once you start adding in more vegetables, they stop caramelizing. So we're going to add these in. We're going to let them cook just a smidge. I've got 3 carrots here. We're going to do a peel on them, and then we'll take the peel to get off their kind of woodsy outside texture, and then I'm going to peel them into strips and then chop those strips up to add into our lettuce wraps. I find this works a little bit better than using the like pre-shredded carrots at the store. I find those are often really dried out and chewy and a bit too thick. So using your peeler will give you a more delicate one. Okay. So I've got my carrots here, and then I'm just going to peel some strips, and then we'll give a couple chops to them because we don't want them quite as long as they are, but it would be harder to peel them if we made them carrots smaller. I'm going to give this over, and I also find like the peeler gives them just really nice and thin. Okay. We'll give these a nice little peel up. We'll get down to our last one, and then I'm going to go over with my chef's knife and chop them up so that we don't have any super long pieces. Otherwise, you'll be eating your lettuce wrap and there'll be a really long carrot strip. Okay, so we've got our carrots peeled here. We're going to go through and kind of chop them up into, fairly bite-sized pieces. They don't need to be super small. These will be ready to go into our pan in just a second. There we go. Give us a nice little toss around. I'm going to turn this back up to about a 6 now. And before we add in our carrots, I'm going to add in some garlic. That way it can crisp up. I don't want to have my pan too full before I add the garlic in because I want it to be able to get some heat on the skillet. And if I add the carrots in, there won't be a lot of room. So we're going to add in about a tablespoon of garlic. This will just crisp up nicely and add flavor. Okay. This would be, if you were doing fresh garlic, it would be about 5 to 6 cloves of fresh garlic. There we go. And of course, once you add that garlic, it has just an amazing smell. Okay. Let's add in our carrots. And then we're going to chop up some green onions to go in here as well. But since green onions are more tender, I always do them towards the end of this mass kind of saute, because if you do them towards the beginning, they'll wilt a little bit faster versus the peppers and the onions and carrots can withstand a longer cooking time. So let's get our peppers or our green onions here. Just slide out. Need to get a pair of scissors. Let's use about 4 because we kind of want this flavor to pop. I'm going to give them a quick rinse. Okay. So I'm going to cut off the rooty parts. That was my husband's attempt at stirring them. It was pretty pathetic. This is why I'm the chef. Okay, now we're going to give a nice little kind of dice up of our green onions. And the whole bits are going in. Sometimes I'll put just the whites in and I'll save the greens for later. This one, the whole bit is going in. Because I will say green onions pair really well with Asian flavors. They're just lovely. And they'll add a beautiful pop of green.
Someone said, at least he tries.
I will give him that. He tries. And this is what we say in this house. The South. Bless his heart. Here we go. Give this a nice little stir. And now we're going to let this kind of saute up for a second. And while that heats for a little bit, kind of crisp up, let's work on our delicious key lime pie. Key lime pie-esque. Okay. We don't need that. Let me grab a different spatula out. Okay, we need to get out our cream cheese. You need about 16 ounces of cream cheese. So I'm going to guesstimate what they are. I have a very little left in this one, and then I've got 8 ounces in my other one. You want about room temperature cream cheese just because it will whip up better, but it's not a game like, like a game breaker if it isn't room temperature. There's some more. And this is another 8 ounces. It wants to come out of its jar. Here we go. And then we are going to add in 16 ounces of sweetened condensed milk. This is where all the sweetness for this is going to come from. If you've never used sweetened condensed milk, it is like syrup. It is very thick and it is very sweet. So it's not something you want to necessarily eat on the own, but it's also how you can make like caramel. You can just like if you just literally heat this up in a saucepan until it's on low.
I don't know what that is, caramel.
My husband, we have a very difference of opinion on how the word caramel is pronounced. Caramel is the correct way. He says caramel because he's like, there's a second A. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's caramel. It is always caramel. It will always be caramel. It will never be caramel unless I'm in England. Then I will allow you to call it caramel. But we are not in England, are we? Okay, let me, before we whip that up, let me give this a nice toss. You can see we're getting this nice little browning on it. It is beautiful.
The chat agrees with me.
Ugh, there are probably a lot of people from England in here. He's wrong. I will die by this. I am correct. I know I am. We're going to add in our pork. And
You got some agreeing with
yes, we've got the same ones. Caramel. It's caramel. Okay, we've got 2 pounds of ground pork. I'm just going to go in here with my tongs and break it up and kind of mix it into our veggie mixture. In a little bit, we're going to add in some spices and some seasoning, but I do want it to kind of crisp up and mix up first. And I'm going to turn my pan up higher because I want my pork to get more crispy versus just like kind of cooking its juices. So I want it to crisp up on its edges. There we go. Okay, we're going to let this sit and cook up, and we're going to whisk up our cream cheese with our sweetened condensed milk, and then we'll be adding in our lime juice, lime zest to make it delicious. And you're essentially going to whisk this until it's nice and smooth. You could do this in a stand mixer with the whisk attachment. It works well. I find the whisk attachment on hand mixers are not that great. They just don't have enough power in them, and they're a little flimsy. So I always use the egg beaters for the most part. Unless whipped cream, well, the whisk will work fine in the whipped cream. The thick stuff, you really need a little bit more. Now I'm going to turn it up nice and high. I want to really whip this together. There we go. Heat in the air. Okay. Now we are going to add in our juice in just a second, but let's take a quick pause over here because I want to flip some of this around and let it start cooking over here. This is going to be the pork mixture for our Asian lettuce wraps. We'll season it up with some coconut aminos and some other flavors in just a second. We want this pork to really crisp up first. And then we'll get to making our, back in here. Don't go down. Okay. Get my hands a quick rinse. Okay, let's get our limes going. We're going to start by zesting them. We're going to zest 4 limes in here. We'll squeeze the juice, and then we'll add just a little bit of extra juice because limes don't yield all that much juice, and we need about a 1/3 cup. So we're going to first zest them all. This is lime zest gives it a really, that's where a lot of the lime flavor is going to come through because it's so bright. But I always say zest your lime first because it's impossible to zest after you've juiced them. They're just, you need a firm surface. And I find using a Parmesan grater does great work with zesting. I feel like it makes the zest the perfect size. Okay. One down. This is going to give you some nice green specks. Now, real key lime pie is not going to be green. It's going to be a pale yellow. The green key lime pie comes from food coloring. So you'll get the zest will add specks of green, but it's not going to be a green color. It will be a pale yellow. Okay. We're looking for about a tablespoon and a half of lime zest. I think I need one more lime to get to that zest. And when you're zesting it, try to stick to just the green parts. Don't get the deeper rind. The deeper rind isn't going to have as nice of a lime flavor. It's going to have more of that rindy flavor. Let's do our last one. There we go. Whew, I'm glad it didn't go in there. There we go. And when you're picking out limes at the store, pick the limes that have more of a squish versus the limes that are really firm. The squish ones are going to be more juicy than the really firm ones. The really firm ones are because either the lime has dried out or it has a really thick skin. Let's turn this real quick. There we go. We're getting to the right parts. This is going to be for our lettuce wraps. We've got our onions, carrots, green onions, peppers in here with our ground pork, and then we'll season this up once all the pork is cooked. But you don't want to season it until that pork is cooked. Otherwise, you won't get that pork crispy up. It will kind of flood it with the sauce. There we go. Just breaking it up. Okay, let me grab a little knife here. We're going to juice our limes in here. I'm going to just cut these in half. And then we'll add in a little bit more lime juice. I need a 1/3 cup, so we'll use this one. This had a little bit of our melted butter in there. That won't make much of a difference. That way I can see how much extra lime juice I'm going to need to add. And I'm just using regular limes. Key limes are hard to come by. I will substitute with some extra key lime juice, but I prefer to use as much fresh limes as possible because I think it adds better flavors. Key lime is actually just a hybrid between a lime and a mandarin orange, so it's a little bit sweeter than a regular lime. And then we'll go and check on our pork for our lettuce wraps. We'll make a little yum sauce and get finished up with everything. There we go. Get in there, really squeeze the juice. This is going to add all of that flavor to our key lime pie. There we go. And I'm just using a hand little juicer here. It's wooden, and you just kind of really squish it into your citrus fruit, and it will allow all those like juices to come out. Better than hand squeezing, and better than that other juicer where you put it in and you flip it over and squeeze it. That never works for me. I've broken 3 of them. So this classic, easy, works the best. Okay, let's see, what are we at? We just need a smidge more. And here we're just going to use some good old key lime West juice. This is the Nelly and Joe's. I feel like it's the only brand of key lime that they have. Okay. So we're about a third cup here. We're going to add it into our mixture. And then we'll whip that in 1 second, but I want to get this stirring because it looks like we are about cooked up on this. Carefully grab these through, and then we're going to add in some different spices, and then we'll make a lovely yum sauce to kind of play over it as well. You could add in some chopped up peanuts to this if you wanted to, but my kids and I, we all kind of prefer it without the nuts. Okay, break this up. This is just about ready for the saucy part. So let's whip this over here. So we've got our zest and we've got our juice from 3 limes plus a little bit of extra key lime juice. I'm going to turn this up really high so we can get the nice whipping to happen. And this is going to make it a lot more fluffy. There we go.
We have someone asking for the recipe for the wrap mixture.
For the wrap, we will upload our videos to the link on their page. That is the best way to get our recipes. So in about an hour or so, it should be uploaded on there, and then you can just go and rewatch again, cook along with me again. Okay, we've got our nice kind of whipped up mixture here. I've got my chilled my crust, my graham cracker crust. It's nice and firm. There we go. And we're going to pour this mixture over our pie. And then it's going to go back into the fridge for a couple of hours to sit. But it will be absolutely delicious. It's kind of got like a hybrid kind of cheesecake key lime pie flavor to it. But it's a great, easy, no-bake one that you can make really quick and then just kind of forget about. So get all of this nice and delicious key lime pie. Look how beautiful that is. Nice and smooth for it. And then what I always love to do is just zest a little bit more lime right over the top. And then when it cools up, it just has a little bit more of those bright specks of green to it. So here, gorgeous, is our key lime pie. Okay, let's get finishing up with our wraps. Now we're starting to get the kind of the crispy edges on our pork. You see how we've got that? That's going to add a nice little crunch into our lettuce wraps. Break it up. And I'm keeping mine on high because I want all of the steam or the natural juices from the meat to kind of steam out to give you a more of a crispier byproduct, like end product. Okay, let's get our flavors in here. Mixing up. Let me get a small bowl and we'll mix it in there. Okay. We are going to use a little bit of ginger paste, about, I want to say, a teaspoon of ginger paste. If you're using fresh ginger, you probably want to use a little bit less. Fresh ginger is a bit more, like, has stronger flavor to it. We're going to use a little bit of honey, about a teaspoon of honey. We're going to use some coconut aminos. We want about 2 tablespoons of this. So 1, 2. And then we're going to do a smidge of soy sauce. About a tablespoon.
Do you have a question? Do you know what you're doing for dinner?
For dinner, I think we are going to do maybe fajitas tonight with some homemade sourdough tortillas. Haven't done them in a while, and I have some avocados. We're going to put in about a teaspoon or so, maybe a half a teaspoon of garlic salt. Just going to mix this up. And we're going to pour this over our mixture, and this is going to season up our pork mixture, but then we're going to make a lovely yum yum sauce. Just making sure that ginger gets mixed up there. If you don't have fresh ginger, you can use dried ginger. Just use about a half a teaspoon or maybe even a fourth. Dried ginger has a lot of kick to it. It's much more potent than fresh ginger. Gonna give this a quick mix up, really season. There we go. And now I'm just gonna turn this down to low. We're gonna kind of let those flavors marinate into our pork. There we go. Beautiful.
You have a question? What's coconut amino?
Coconut aminos, it has a very savory flavor. I'm pretty sure it's made from like coconut. Yeah, coconut blossom nectar and salt. But it has a great like savory sweet flavor that works really well in Asian cuisines or really grilling a lot of things if you want that more a slighter sweet texture to taste to it. But it works really well in I like a lot of Asian cooking. Okay, let's make our little yum yum sauce here. We're going to use some Kewpie mayo, which is like Asian mayo. It has a higher fat content than regular mayo. I think they use more yolk in it, but it's really creamy and it works really well. Let me give it a good shake here. I'm trying to get about a fourth of a cup in here. There we go. So we've got a fourth of a cup, and you could use regular mayo if you want. It works as well. You can use tomato paste or ketchup. I'm going to use ketchup because I have it readily available. I'm going to put about a tablespoon of ketchup in here. We're going to add about a teaspoon of onion powder. There we go. We're going to add in some paprika, about a half a teaspoon. Give it a good shake here. We're going to add in a little bit of garlic salt. A little bit of my Japanese barbecue sauce. And this is going to be the main base for our kind of our yum yum sauce, which is just a great sauce that will drizzle over our lettuce wraps. Just adds a nice creamy texture. So let me give this a quick stir. And we're getting this nice rich color to it. Grab a spoon here.
Also, the sourdough starter.
Oh yes, we started our sourdough starter journey. For anybody who's really interested in starting their sourdough journey, we decided to make a new tutorial starting with day one. I think we have that video posted up on there, which has everything you need to begin your journey with day one. And then we'll do day two all the way through making a loaf of bread, which takes about a week or so on here. So here is our yum yum sauce that we're going to pour over our little wrap. It's going to have just a lovely flavor. And then I've got my lettuce. This is all the romaine that I was harvesting from my garden here. I've washed them and I have them drying out clean over here. But we can assemble our wraps here now. Oh, lost a piece. We'll try it. Delicious. Okay. I'm going to turn this guy off. So, to assemble your lettuce wraps, you're simply going to take, let me find some really big ones. We've got 1, 2, and 3. And we are going to then scoop on our pork mixture with the carrots, onions, and our green onions in there with our little blend of coconut aminos, soy sauce, ginger, and the flavor here. And then we're gonna go over with our yum yum sauce. And then I will say just drizzle it over there. It's gonna add just a nice, lovely kind of creamy flavor for it. It's gonna be so delicious. But it's kind of very like a simple, light, refreshing lunch that's not super heavy on these summer days. And then we'll, of course, serve it with our key lime pie once it has completely set. It's going to be so delicious. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what we're making for our family, and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just search, go to that link, search for the title of this. This would be like Asian lettuce wraps and key lime pie. And then you could just rewatch and cook along with us at home. We also have on our profile page a link to our Amazon storefront. So if you see any of the gadgets that we were cooking with or the pans or whatnot, and you want to know more about them, you can just go to that link. I have them all in a bunch of lists there. Lots of people ask us about, oh, what's this thing? What's that? I try to put everything there. So if you guys, you can check it out and look at it. We do make a small commission if you do decide to purchase anything. But again, it's really more there for you guys to see and answer your guys' questions. But again, thank you guys for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.